In this video, we'll look at 21 actors currently rotting in jail, and the reasons why. Number 21. Michael Jace. 62-year-old Michael Jace, best known for his roles as Officer Julian Lowe on the TV series The Shield, involved in a horrific crime on May 19, 2014. Jace shot and killed his wife, April Jace, in their Los Angeles home. The couple had been married for over a decade and had 2 young sons. The reason behind the murder arose from marital tensions, particularly revolving around financial difficulties and Jace's jealousy. During the murder, Jace shot April, who was an avid runner, twice in the legs and once in the back, allegedly telling her, "If you like running, then run to heaven." After the incident, Jace called and reported that he had shot his wife. As if this wasn't cruel enough, he did it in front of their 2 kids aged 8 and 5 at the time. The police arrived to find April dead from the gunshot wounds. During the trial, it was revealed that Jace had suspected his wife of wanting to leave him, and jealousy over her perceived interactions with other men was a significant motivator for the killing, in addition to the substantial financial problems he was going through, having filed for bankruptcy in 2011. It was also revealed that Jace had a history of domestic violence. He was charged with first-degree murder, which is the most severe type of homicide charge. He was also charged with using a firearm in the commission of the crime. In May 2016, Michael Jace was convicted of second-degree murder. The jury found that while the killing was intentional, it did not meet the criteria for first-degree murder, which requires premeditation. Jace was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. He will not be eligible for parole until he has served at least 40 years, effectively making it a life sentence, given his age at the time of sentencing was 54, and is currently held at the Corcoran State Prison in California, just like the actor sentenced to death by lethal injection coming up later in this video. Be sure to stick to the end to see the Squid Game actor recently sent to jail, plus 2 newly arrested actors rotting in jail. Number 20. Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson, best known for his role as Stephen Hyde on the popular TV show That 70s Show, was recently convicted of multiple counts of sexual assault. The allegations against Masterson first came to light in the early 2000s, when 3 women accused him of forcing himself onto them in separate incidents that occurred between 2001 and 2003. All 3 women were connected to the Church of Scientology, of which Masterson is a prominent member. The accusations against Masterson were initially kept out of the public eye, reportedly due to the influence of the Church of Scientology. The women claimed that they were pressured by the church not to go to the authorities, with some stating they were threatened with excommunication or other repercussions if they reported the crimes. It wasn't until the Me Too movement gained momentum that the allegations resurfaced, leading to revived investigations. In 2017, following a series of renewed complaints, the Los Angeles Police Department reopened the investigation into the allegations against Masterson. By 2020, he was formally charged with 3 counts of forcible sexual assault, with the prosecutors arguing that he used his status and influence within the Church of Scientology to silence his victims and avoid justice for years. In May 2023, after a lengthy and emotional...
The U.S. government doesn't want you to have this baseball bat-shaped flashlight, and Amazon already banned it from their store. There's a revolutionary flashlight out there, and it's got the lumen output of a military searchlight. It's able to generate a beam of light reaching up to 2 miles, all without sacrificing efficiency or battery life. And here's the kicker. It's shaped like a baseball bat that can literally smash through anything. But the company behind it, they're not playing ball with the big retailers, and they've sold over 3 million units in just the past 30 days. That's right, they're cutting out the middleman and slashing the price. This new flashlight is called Batbeam, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's been featured in all major newspapers like NBC News, Fox News, and even CNN. That's because it was originally designed for military use. The Army needed a flashlight that could also keep them safe during close combat missions in enemy territory. So they developed state-of-the-art photon forge technology that produces a ray of light reaching distances of 2 miles, meaning it's at least 20 times more powerful than any commercially available flashlight, and it's super energy efficient.
Trial, Masterson was convicted on 2 counts of forcible sexual assault. The jury was deadlocked on the 3rd count, leading to a mistrial on that charge. In September 2023, Danny Masterson was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, meaning that he will not be eligible for parole until he has served at least 30 years. He will be aged 78 at that time. He is currently imprisoned at the California Men's Colony, a medium to minimum security prison in San Luis Obispo. By the way, did you know that the guy who plays Francis in Malcolm in the Middle is his younger brother? Well, now you know. Number 19, Amy Locane. 52-year-old Amy Locane, known for her role as Sandy Harling in the TV show Melrose Place, was involved in a tragic car accident on June 27, 2010, in Montgomery Township, New Jersey. Locane, who was driving under the influence of alcohol, crashed into another vehicle while driving 53 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. The collision resulted in the death of Helene Seaman, a 60-year-old woman, and seriously injured her husband, Fred Seaman. Locane's blood alcohol level was nearly 3 times the limit for legal impairment at the time of the accident, just like the other actress coming up later in this video. Locane was charged with second-degree vehicular homicide and third-degree assault by auto. The legal proceedings were complex and extended over several years. Initially, in 2012, Locane was sentenced to 3 years in prison, a sentence that many criticized as being too lenient given the severity of the crime. The judge cited factors like her lack of a prior criminal record and her 2 young children as reasons for the relatively short sentence. However, the Seaman family, as well as the prosecution, argued that the sentence did not adequately reflect the gravity of the offense. They pushed for a harsher penalty, leading to a series of appeals and resentencing hearings. During this time, Locane's husband filed for divorce and for custody of their 2 daughters. In 2020, after several appeals and legal challenges, Locane was resentenced to 8 years in prison. She is required to serve at least 6 years and 10 months before being eligible for parole. She is currently incarcerated at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women and recently lost an appeal to have her sentence reduced. Number 18. Drew Drexel. Drew Drexel, well known as a champion on American Ninja Warrior, was arrested in August 2020. Drexel's arrest shocked fans and followers, as he had been a beloved competitor and the 2019 winner of American Ninja Warrior. The charges against him were severe and involved deeply disturbing allegations related to the exploitation of a minor. The case against Drexel began after the mother of a teenage girl contacted authorities, accusing him of engaging in inappropriate sexual conduct with her daughter. The incidents reportedly occurred over several years, beginning when the girl was 15. Drexel was accused of engaging in illicit sexual activities with the minor and traveling across state lines to meet her for the purpose of committing illegal acts. The investigation revealed evidence of sexual exploitation, including explicit communication between Drexel and the victim. NBC and American Ninja Warrior quickly severed ties with him, removing any content featuring Drexel from their platforms and distancing the show from the scandal. Sponsors and partners also cut ties, effectively ending his career in competitive sports entertainment. The 35-year-old was charged with multiple serious offenses, including manufacturing illegal materials involving children, enticement of a minor to travel for illicit sexual conduct, and use of interstate commerce to entice a minor to engage in sexual activity. As of September 2024, Drexel's legal case is ongoing, with the potential for a 45-year prison sentence if convicted on all charges. Number 17. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein, the untouchable Hollywood producer, became the face of the Me Too movement after numerous women came forward in 2017 with allegations of sexual misconduct. Weinstein co-founded Miramax and the Weinstein Company, producing critically acclaimed films like Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, and The King's Speech, even appearing in some of them. However, his career and reputation were destroyed when a pattern of sexual harassment, assault, and abuse spanning decades was exposed. The first allegations were brought to light by investigative reports from the New York Times and the New Yorker. These reports detailed the accounts of multiple women, including
You are using apple cider vinegar the wrong way. If your goal is to lose belly fat, you need to use it the right way.
including actresses and former employees who accused Weinstein of sexual harassment, coercion, and assault. High-profile actresses like Ashley Judd and Rose McGowan were among those who accused Weinstein of inappropriate behavior, which ranged from unwelcome advances to outright sexual assault. The revelations led to a cascade of similar accusations from women around the world, making Weinstein a symbol of the systemic abuse of power in Hollywood. In May 2018, Weinstein was arrested in New York City and charged with several crimes, including forcible sexual assault in the first and third degrees, criminal sexual act in the first degree, and predatory sexual assault, a charge that carries a potential life sentence. Weinstein's fall from grace was swift. He was expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. His production company declared bankruptcy. His wife divorced him, and the Queen of England stripped him of the prestigious CBE honor that he had received in 2004. In February 2020, Harvey Weinstein was convicted of 2 felony charges: criminal sexual assault in the first degree and forcible sexual assault in the third degree. He was acquitted of the most serious charges, including predatory sexual assault, which could have led to a life sentence. On March 11, 2020, Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison in New York and a further 16 years in California in 2023. The judge also ordered him to register as a sex offender. On April 25, 2024, the New York Court of Appeals overturned the New York convictions and said that the trial judge had made egregious errors. The court has ordered a retrial with Ashley Judd, stating that the decision to overturn the convictions was unfair to the survivors. Despite this, Harvey continues to languish at the Mohawk Correctional Facility in New York and is currently 72 years, meaning he will be 107 when he is released. Number 16. Josh Duggar. 36-year-old Josh Duggar, a former reality TV star known for his appearance on the TLC show 19 Kids and Counting, became embroiled in a series of scandals that culminated in his arrest and imprisonment. His legal troubles began in 2015, when reports surfaced that, as a teenager, he had forced himself onto several of his younger sisters and a family friend. Although the incidents occurred in the early 2000s, they were brought to light years later, leading to the cancellation of the family's show. In April 2021, Josh was arrested on federal charges related to possession of lewd materials involving kids. He was charged with 2 counts, one for receiving lewd materials involving children, and another for possessing lewd materials involving children. These charges were serious federal offenses, with each count carrying a potential sentence of 20 years in prison. So bad was the material found in his possession that one agent from the Department of Homeland Security stated that it was among the top 5 of the worst that he had ever examined. In December 2021, Josh Duggar was found guilty on both counts. and in May 2022, he was sentenced to 12 years and 7 months in federal prison. The judge ordered Duggar to serve this sentence without the possibility of parole, which is common in the federal system. Additionally, upon his release, Duggar will face 20 years of supervised release and will be required to register as a sex offender. Unlike Harvey Weinstein and Amy Locane, who were left by their better halves during their trials and tribulations, Josh Duggar's wife, Anna, stood by him throughout the trial. He is currently being held at FCI Segoville, a federal correctional institution in Segoville, Texas, and he will be 48 by the time he is eligible for release. Number 15. Jared Fogle. Jared Fogle, once the face of Subway and known for his dramatic weight loss journey, shocked the world when his dark secret life was exposed. Fogle rose to fame in the late 1990s as the Subway Guy, attributing his weight loss of over 200 pounds to a diet consisting primarily of Subway sandwiches. His inspiring story catapulted him to fame, and he was hired as a prominent spokesperson for the brand, participating in numerous commercials, public appearances, and charity events focused on childhood obesity. He even managed to get roles in movies such as Sharknado. However, Fogle's public persona was a stark contrast to his private life. In 2007, the FBI began investigating Fogle after receiving a tip from a former journalist named Rochelle Hermans, who had secretly recorded conversations with Fogle in which he expressed interest in engaging in illegal activities involving minors. This investigation eventually led to the discovery that Fogle had been involved in the possession and distribution of lewd materials involving minors, and had engaged in illicit acts with minors. He received some of these materials from Russell Taylor, the executive director of his own charity organization, the Jared Foundation, who had recorded these unfortunate materials in his home. Fogle's reputation, once that of an inspiring figure, was irreparably damaged. His wife filed for divorce shortly after. In November 2015, Fogle pleaded guilty to the charges. As part of a plea agreement, he was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in federal prison. The judge ordered that Fogle must serve at least 85% of his sentence before being eligible for parole, which means he will not be eligible for release until approximately 2029.
Okay, stop everything that you were doing, quit the exercises, stop the crash diets, the Ozempic, it's all garbage. Make this...
Additionally, Fogle was fined $175,000 and ordered to pay $1.4 million in restitution to 14 of his victims. The 46-year-old is currently serving his sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution, Englewood, a low-security federal prison in Littleton, Colorado, known for housing white-collar criminals. Number 14. Zach Avery. Zach Avery, a Hollywood actor who recently played Mike in the 2021 movie The Getaway, orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes in recent memory. Avery presented himself as a rising star in the film industry, but his acting career never gained much traction. To maintain his lavish lifestyle, he created a fraudulent investment scheme through his company, One in MM Capital LLC. Between 2014 and 2019, the 37-year-old convinced investors that his company had licensing deals with major streaming platforms like Netflix and HBO to distribute foreign films, but these deals were entirely fabricated. Avery promised investors substantial returns, up to 40% within a year, on their investments in these distribution deals. To lend credibility to his scam, he used fake documents and forged agreements. Over the 5 years, Avery swindled investors out of more than $650 million, using new investors' money to pay off earlier ones in classic Ponzi scheme fashion. When his scheme unraveled in 2019, the deception had already affected hundreds of investors, who realized there were no legitimate film distribution deals, and that Avery's lifestyle, which included a $6 million mansion, luxury cars, and extravagant purchases, was funded by their stolen money. In 2021, Avery was arrested and charged with securities fraud and wire fraud, with his wife petitioning for divorce and filing for sole custody of their son. The same day her husband was arrested, and in October of that year, he pleaded guilty to 1 count of securities fraud. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, and he'll be 54 years of age upon release in 2042. Number 13. Will Hayden, the founder of Red Jacket Firearms and star of the reality TV show Sons of Guns, saw his life spiral into disgrace in 2014. Known for his expertise in gunsmithing and his prominent role on the Discovery Channel show, Hayden's image was shattered when he was accused of heinous crimes involving sexual misconduct. In August 2014, Hayden was arrested and charged with the aggravated sexual assault of a minor. His own daughter, Stephanie Ford, a cast member of Sons of Guns, publicly accused him of illegally abusing her when she was a child, which intensified the already growing list of accusations against him. The charges began to snowball as more victims came forward, alleging that Hayden had sexually assaulted them over the years. One of the victims claimed that Hayden had forced himself onto her starting when she was barely a teen. The Discovery Channel immediately canceled Sons of Guns in the wake of Hayden's arrest. Red Jacket Firearms distanced itself from Hayden, with the company's license to manufacture firearms being revoked. His family members, particularly Stephanie, publicly condemned him. In April 2017, Will Hayden was convicted on 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault and 1 count of forcible sexual assault. The conviction led to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole for the aggravated sexual assault charges, and an additional 40 years for the forcible sexual assault charge. The judge ordered that Hayden serve his sentences consecutively, ensuring that he would never be released from prison. 3 months later, he was slapped with a 3rd life sentence after pleading no contest to another forcible sexual assault charge. The 59-year-old is serving his sentence in Louisiana State Penitentiary. Number 12. Joe Sun. 53-year-old Joe Sun, best known for his role as Random Task in Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, is currently serving a life sentence for being a very bad man. Before his acting career, Sun was a mixed martial artist with 0 wins and 4 losses under his belt. But his fame would be overshadowed by the horrific crime he committed years earlier. On Christmas Eve in 1990, Sun and an accomplice kidnapped and brutally assaulted a woman in Huntington Beach, California. They forcibly assaulted and humiliated the victim before releasing her. Despite the violent nature of the crime, Sun managed to evade justice for nearly 2 decades. It wasn't until 2008, when Joe Sun was arrested for unrelated minor charges, that his DNA was entered into the national database. This led to a match in the 1990 cold case, linking Sun to the brutal assault. Finally, the victim, who had lived for years without knowing who her attackers were, would be getting the justice she so desperately needed. In 2008, Joe Sun was charged with multiple counts of felony forcible sexual assault, kidnapping, and torture. However, due to the statute of limitations on some charges, Sun could not be tried for the forcible assault charge. Instead, he was charged with felony torture and other nasty offenses related to the attack. In 2011, Joe Sun was convicted of felony torture and sentenced to 7 years to life in prison. 6 years later, in 2017, while serving his life sentence, Joe Sun was accused of further violent behavior. He was charged with killing his cellmate, a convicted sex offender in Wasco State Prison, California. He was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and given a further 27-year sentence behind bars. He is now serving 34 years to life at the same prison. Number 11. Skylar DeLeon. DeLeon, a former child actor who appeared in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, committed one of the most heinous crimes in California's history. In 2004, DeLeon and her accomplices orchestrated the murder of Tom and Jackie Hawks, a retired couple living their dream life aboard their yacht Well-Deserved. Tom and Jackie Hawks were in the market selling this yacht so that they could move back home and be closer to their family. DeLeon, posing as a prospective buyer, lured the Hawks into a supposed test sale. Once out at sea, DeLeon, with the help of his wife Jennifer Henderson and 2 other accomplices, overpowered the couple, tied them to the anchor and threw them overboard, leaving them to the elements in the Pacific Ocean. The motive behind the murder was financial. DeLeon wanted to steal the yacht for what her defense lawyers later claimed was DeLeon's need for money to finance sex reassignment surgery. DeLeon faced charges of first-degree murder for the killings of Tom and Jackie Hawks. The charges included special circumstances of murder for financial gain, which made him eligible for the death penalty. In addition to the Hawks murders, DeLeon was also implicated in the 2003 killing of a man named John Jarvie, who was found dead in Mexico. In 2008, Skylar DeLeon was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder for the killings of Tom and Jackie Hawks and John Jarvie. In 2009, she was sentenced to death by lethal injection. However, due to the moratorium on death penalty in California, she will live out his days on death row at California's San Quentin State Prison, one of the state's most notorious facilities. Number 10. Joe Exotic. 61-year-old Joe Exotic became a household name through the Netflix docuseries Tiger King, which captured his eccentric personality, turbulent relationships, and eventual downfall. The series depicted his controversial life as the owner of the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park in Oklahoma, where he housed hundreds of big cats and other exotic animals. Joe's story began unraveling when his longtime feud with animal rights activist Carol Baskin, founder of Big Cat Rescue, intensified. Baskin had accused Joe of mistreating animals and sought to shut down his zoo. Joe retaliated by launching a campaign of harassment and threats against Baskin, which escalated to a point of no return. In 2017, Joe was accused of hiring 2 men in separate attempts to execute Baskin. The first man, an employee at his zoo, took the money but never followed through. A second undercover FBI agent, who was offered $10,000 for the deed, was later involved in the investigation, sealing Joe's fate. In 2019, Joe Exotic was arrested and charged with 2 counts of hiring someone to murder Carol Baskin. Additionally, Joe faced multiple wildlife-related charges, including 17 counts of animal abuse for killing 5 tigers to make space for other animals, and violating the Endangered Species Act, and 9 counts of violating the Lacey Act for illegally selling tiger cubs across state lines. In January 2020, Joe Exotic was convicted of the charges and sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. In July 2021, a federal appeals court ruled that Joe's sentencing was incorrect, stating that the 2 murder-for-hire charges should have been treated as a single conviction for sentencing purposes, and he was resentenced to 21 years. In late 2021, Joe Exotic revealed that he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer and has publicly sought compassionate release, but his requests have not been granted thus far. Joe is currently scheduled for release sometime in 2035, at which point he will be 72 years old. Number 9. Jerry Harris. 25-year-old Jerry Harris, a breakout star from Netflix's hit documentary series Cheer, was arrested in September 2020 after an FBI investigation into allegations of child sexual exploitation. Harris gained fame for his infectious personality and talent as a cheerleader on the show, but his dark
It took us 3,000 years to understand how our hearing actually works. This can improve your hearing loss almost overnight, without a doctor or a prescription, and without spending thousands of...
Dark side came to light when twin teenage boys accused him of sexual misconduct. According to the allegations, Harris had repeatedly solicited explicit material from the boys, starting when they were 13. The accusations triggered a federal investigation, during which it was revealed that Harris had allegedly used Snapchat and other platforms to request inappropriate content from multiple minors. The investigation also uncovered explicit messages and videos Harris had sent to these victims, making the case against him stronger. Harris's arrest shocked the public, especially given his popularity and the positive portrayal of him on Cheer. The Cheer production team quickly distanced themselves from Harris. Harris's sponsors and partnerships, including deals with companies like Varsity Spirit, immediately dissolved. Jerry Harris was initially charged with 1 count of producing lewd material involving minors, but later faced a total of 7 federal charges, including enticing a minor to engage in lewd activity, receiving and attempting to receive illegal material, involving kids, and traveling to engage in illicit sexual conduct with a minor. In February 2022, Harris pleaded guilty to 2 of the 7 federal charges as part of a plea deal. The court sentenced him in July 2022 to 12 years in federal prison for child sexual exploitation. After serving his prison term, he will be subject to 8 years of supervised release, during which he will likely be monitored and restricted in his use of technology and interactions with minors. Harris is scheduled for release in approximately 2034. Number 8. Shannon Richardson. An actress with minor roles in The Walking Dead and The Vampire Diaries, became involved in a shocking and bizarre crime in 2013. Richardson sent ricin-laced letters to then-President Barack Obama, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and Mark Glaze, the director of Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Ricin is a deadly toxin derived from castor beans, and Richardson's letters could have ended tragically for the recipients. Initially, Richardson attempted to frame her estranged husband, Nathan Richardson, for the crime. At the time, the couple was going through a contentious divorce, and Shannon planted evidence in an attempt to implicate him. However, after an investigation, it became clear that Shannon was the perpetrator. The FBI arrested her in June 2013 after she confessed to making and mailing the ricin-laced letters from her home in Texas. Shannon Richardson was charged with 3 counts of threatening the president, 2 counts of mailing threatening communications, and 1 count of making and possessing a biological weapon. During the trial, Richardson's defense claimed she was not in her right mind and was suffering from emotional stress due to her troubled marriage and being pregnant at the time. However, her actions were deemed deliberate and dangerous. In July 2014, Shannon Richardson was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to possessing and producing a biological toxin. She was also ordered to pay $367,222 in restitution, covering the costs incurred by the government during the investigation, including the extensive cleanup operation and testing required for the letters. The 47-year-old is currently at Federal Medical Center, Carswell in Texas, and her projected release date is around 2032. Number 7. Colin Walker. Colin Walker, best known for his role in the 2018 film Superfly, was arrested in 2018 on multiple sexual assault charges. Walker had allegedly used his status as an entertainer to lure women, primarily models, by promising them career opportunities. Once he gained their trust, he would assault them. According to prosecutors, Walker often contacted his victims on social media, offering professional photo shoots or work in the entertainment industry as a pretense. The assaults reportedly took place over a period of several years, beginning in 2013. By the time of his arrest, more than a dozen women had come forward, accusing Walker of sexual misconduct. In October 2022, Kaylin Walker was convicted of multiple counts of forcible sexual assault and sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. The jury found him guilty on several counts of forcible sexual assault, though he was acquitted of charges involving 3 of the 10 victims. The court determined that Walker had deliberately used his status and influence to commit these acts, sentencing him to a lengthy prison term. His earliest possible release date would not be until the 2070s, and it is highly likely that the 29-year-old will spend the rest of his life in prison. Number 6. Zara Pythian. Zara Pythian, a British actress and martial artist known for her role in Doctor Strange, 2016, was convicted in 2022 alongside her husband, Victor Mark, for sexually exploiting a minor. The charges stemmed from incidents that occurred between 2005 and 2008, when the victim was aged below 15. Pythian, who at the time was rising in the entertainment world and gaining recognition as a martial artist, used her position of trust to manipulate and exploit the victim. The abuse began when Pythian and her husband groomed the victim, enticing her with alcohol and promises, before subjecting her to illegal acts. Many who had admired Pythian for her athletic prowess and her role in Doctor Strange were left shocked and disgusted by the revelations. Pythian faced multiple charges of sexual abuse against a minor. She was convicted on 14 counts of sexual activity with a child. Her husband, Victor Mark, faced additional charges, including charges for sexual assault involving another young victim. In May 2022, Zara Pythian was sentenced to 8 years in prison for her role in the abuse. Her husband, Victor Mark, received a harsher sentence of 14 years, reflecting his more extensive involvement in the crimes. The judge in the case condemned both Pythian and Mark for exploiting their victim over several years, citing the long-lasting psychological damage they had inflicted on the survivor. The 40-year-old is set to be released in 2030. Number 5. Ryan Grantham. 25-year-old Ryan Grantham, best known for his roles in Riverdale and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, shocked the world in March 2020 when he was arrested for the murder of his mother, Barbara Waite. Grantham, who was 21 at the time, shot his 64-year-old mother from the back while she played the piano.
I have to poop, but it feels stuck. Stop! Are you trying to kill us? What? Fiber helps you poop. No. Fiber bulks up stuck poop. It's like adding more cars to a traffic jam. Oh.
In their Squamish, British Columbia home. After the deed, Grantham meticulously planned his next steps, which included contemplating larger acts of violence. He packed his car with firearms, ammunition, and Molotov cocktails, and began driving towards Ottawa. He later confessed that his original plan was to assassinate Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. However, after driving for several hours, he changed his mind and instead turned himself in at a Vancouver police station, confessing to his mother's murder. Grantham was charged with second-degree murder, which in Canada carries a mandatory life sentence. Second-degree murder involves an intentional killing that was not premeditated. The trial raised questions about Grantham's mental state, as it was revealed that he had been struggling with severe depression, suicidal thoughts, and violent urges leading up to the crime. Court documents also revealed that he had rehearsed the act in the days leading up to it and filmed it. In September 2022, Grantham was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 14 years in 2036, when he will be 38 or 39 years old. The judge considered Grantham's young age and mental health struggles, but emphasized the premeditated nature of the killing and the potential for further harm. Number 4. Jen Shah, known for her role on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. became the center of a massive legal scandal when she was arrested on March 30th, 2021, for her involvement in a nationwide telemarketing fraud scheme. Along with her assistant, Stuart Smith, Shah was accused of defrauding hundreds of elderly and vulnerable individuals. The fraudulent scheme involved selling non-existent business services to victims, many of whom were older adults with limited computer knowledge. Shah and her associates misled these individuals into purchasing services, leaving them in financial ruin.